crucifixes sticking out?
Not necessarily. I wouldn't say it literally offends me. Like, I don't care if I see pentagrams. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, whatever. Like, this is America, and you can...
We're free here.
You're free, for sure. You're supposed to be able to do basically whatever you want. I mean, if people are going to get oversensitive,
I think you can do technically whatever you want.
No, sure. I mean, that's the idea, right? That you can do whatever you want.
So Cole, what do you think about that?
Well, I think that just like whenever you give one, when we're talking of these freedom of speech issues, it's really it's really hard. It's a double-edged sword for sure, because in the same breath, what's the alternative? Take away the right of that expression, but then you're going to have people who legitimately may want a phallic monument, who's, he might be a highway patrolman who believed in, the power of man and not God, and wanted a phallic symbol paid for by the tax people on the side of the mountain. And in that, so if we're going to, we can't split hairs here. We've got, if we're free, we're free. If we're not, then we're not.
If it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander.
Yeah.
Like.
So
there you go.
So, but we can't have this discussion again when somebody wants a giant penis erected on the side of the road. If they, if they're allowed to continue doing this. I don't know. I mean, that's extravagant.
That's
but I'm saying,
extreme,
but he said pentagram. He said pentagram. That's.
Well, it's just like you have to come up with a reasonable like where do you separate like individual fanaticism to cult to full-blown religion, like you know what I mean?
Somewhere.
Like some psychopath, that maybe he's a cop, more than likely, like he's a fucking cop, and maybe like, dude, it's just like the NAMBLA, like the American Man Boy Love Association, like these people exist. You know what I mean? That like maybe that's their religion, like man, boy, love, and it's just like maybe his monument was, a 60-year-old
man
sticking his dick in an 8-year-old's ass, and it's just like,
there we go.
Dude, man, that's just because that's his religion doesn't mean I have to be subject to that commuting to work. Like,
no, for sure.
You know what I mean? And people don't attack like corporate symbology that have obviously satanistic or imagery. Like people want to throw stones where they can. It's just like.
But the way that they see it is they are already being robbed, so they want that. I mean, because they are technically paying for it,
so
which is their argument.
So then, what they want the families to pay for these things, or?
Well, yeah, because if an individual owns property, they can erect whatever kind of shit they want, depending on code and county regulations. So, I mean, yeah, but that's private or that's public land that they're also placing these crucifixes on too. This is land that belongs to every American citizen, including atheists, and and the taxpayers pay to have that land maintained, and they're also paying to have this crucifix erected on it.
Well, that was for sure, dude. Like,
I mean, that I'm looking at it very subjectively. I'm looking at it from that, because I agree with I don't think the atheist should sue them, but I don't think that I should. If I'm going to pay for a crucifix, then when I die, I want a giant Burning Man or a giant pyramid built on the side of the highway. Then a giant pyramid will work.
Well, my question is that it's where he fell, but is it where he's buried? Because we're paying for that plus his burial, as I'm understanding it through this conversation.
Okay.
So where do we draw the line is my question.
Well,
how much is there a cap on how much the public can pay or does pay for their funerals on top of these other
So then here's my question: is why
expenses?
are they doing this?
Well, first of all, it's kind of hard for us to comment. None of us are like what you would call like doing the higher good for the community. Like, you know what I mean? We're digging.
We are now.
We are now.
No, sure, but like, just because they're cops and shit like this, do we have to like, you know what I mean? Like average Joe, Mexican, like dirt bag, like. You know what I mean? Like, not being a pejorative towards Mexicans. I'm just trying to get these people...
You're racist. It's cool. You're racist.
No, people that don't matter in the eyes of the fucking fist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
okay, so who are the ones actually physically putting these things up?
Utah Highway Patrol.
It's the Utah Highway Patrol.
Oh, so we're not giving jobs. We're not... Because I think we should, from an economical standpoint, have these people, give people jobs, boost the economy, raise some crucifixes, raise some pentagrams.
Whatever.
And there you go. I'm just thinking logically here.
We can. We can go down to 21st South, Home Depot, and get some free hands. Well, seemingly free hands. You know.
Okay, so I say fuck the atheists. Jake says
It's
fuck them all.
It's just like I really don't care. Like, is it the $12 for fucking plywood or whatever they're making it out of is that big an issue? I mean, if they're spending $800 on a crucifix that I can pull out of my ass.
Well,
you know
but
what
it's
I mean?
illuminated also, so there's a constant cost going up
It's
to that
illuminated?
illumination. There's a spotlight shining up on it.
Yeah.
Within the last month, I've been up right next to this crucifix, and it's not made out of plywood, and it's
solid
it's
wood.
in cement
It's built
into
to
the
last.
ground. Like, yeah, it's not.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere.
Somebody hired a contracting company to do it. That's how serious it was. It wasn't like volunteers. Somebody came out, laid some, like, dug the hole, did a perfect hole, and did some cement, ran some electrical, and mounted this fucking thing. You know.
Wow.
So
That's
they were like,
an
if they
ordeal.
hired my dad's company, like, sure, that's cool, but like, dude, somebody got paid like more than 800, or I'd say about, when you said $800, I'd probably maybe $5 or something. I don't know. From an electrician's point of view, I don't know. Maybe the state has electricians, they sicked on it. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about
I don't know.
it? You agree with this? You agree with the atheists suing these people?
No, not at all, dude. I say leave them alone. It's I mean, my only concern is with the cost of this and where are we paying and what are we paying for.
There you go. So maybe if they set a standard of this kind of material, this kind of, electrical setup, this kind of whatever. But I mean, you got to think. So, do these things just last forever? Or
Not all of them are as.
Well,
I haven't. The major one that I've seen is the one in Parley's Canyon, and that one's pretty fancy. But the ones that I've seen on TV and the news are not as fancy. Like, they may not be cemented in and shit like that.
Because if they're there forever, I mean, how many years is it going to take until it's just the highways are just abundant with crucifixes and God knows what else? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Or some pentagrams, or some, Stars of David. We're just going to have, like, a big roadside graveyard eventually,
So Johnny and I are on the same page, and you say...
Well, I agree with the atheists philosophically, but suing the government isn't really going to help anybody. I agree with the fact that I'm saying that us paying for it, I think, either we're going to let everybody who is a highway patrolman, or what, I mean, we have to allow absolute freedom if we're going to allow them that freedom. Gotcha. Any other highway patrolman with any other varied view, and no matter how unpopular, if they're going to do this, they should allow him to them to raise a monument in honor of him.
Awesome.
Right, let's actually vote on it, and like you said, set a clear standard. Let's vote on it.
Yeah.
Let's have a choice in this.
Consolidate the effort of the good. All right,
Names have been changed particularly.
So we're gonna follow that with another segment. It's a editorial piece by Colby Tapp. It's called. You go ahead and explain it, Cole.
Basically, whenever I feel like it, as the segment or as the podcasts go on, I'm going to take time out to focus on a specific individual, a member of American culture, political, social, it really doesn't matter. And I'm going to kind of put the
boot to the ass.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Well,
slimy
I'm just going to
American.
put the glare on them pretty much. Put the glare on them pretty much and expose them for the slimy American they are, and that's why the segment is called The Slimy American.
Beautiful.
Hello and welcome to The Slimy American. My name is Colby Tapp, and my aim as host of this segment is to guide you on an adventure. Sifting through the social and political landscape, identifying and exposing the fine examples of vulgar American refuse we find along the way. A voyage across the vast toilet bowl of American culture, intellectually sinking the dense yet airy turds that dare float to the surface. Thank you for joining us for the first installment of The Slimy American. As you heard, I am Colby Tapp, and I will be your host for this segment. For my first Slimy American selection, I wanted to pick a man whose actions and behaviors hit close to home for me, being a citizen of Utah. They hit home close to home for all of us. But this man has been one of the 2 U.S. senators of this state for 34 years, and in this time, he has only illustrated a great mediocrity, a great, he wasn't even a maverick, not even in the, twisted Republican sense. One of his major pieces of legislation in this last 34 years, something he called in 2006, the latest statement I've heard, he said that flag burning is the most important issue facing our nation at this time. He said this in 2006, as recently as I could find. And what that means is that in the midst of 2 wars and a blooming financial crisis, this man thought that people burning a piece of cloth really affected anyone. And it's it just sticks in my craw because it's a strike against the Constitution. He has just done nothing but try and amend it and, basically diminish the quality of the First Amendment. And in 2006, the same year that he made that statement, he was pushing for a bill in the Senate that would make flag burning illegal once again, and it only lost on the Senate floor by 1 vote, meaning that we were 1 vote away in this nation from losing a massive freedom of expression, a fundamental part of what this nation is about. And in his 34 years, this man has hardly lived in Utah, hardly visits it. He makes these very almost scheduled calls into local church-owned media. The Doug Wright Show, most of all, is one of his favorite puff pieces to go and get lip service from, and gets, rile up his constituents that listen to that man. Basically, the man has damaged the reputation of Utah and the citizens, especially, the fact that we have a burgeoning kind of cultural evolution going on in Utah. There's a mass influx of all different kinds of cultures, and I feel like he's out of touch with that and misrepresenting us to the nation. And I don't know, that's about it. He makes Utahns look like ignorant assholes. I mean, this man, after the Oklahoma City bombings, it's kind of a sign of the times. He used that incident immediately after to create new anti-terrorism legislation that is almost as loosely, written as the Patriot Act, meaning that, warrantless wiretaps were permitted, detaining people without charging them for a crime.
Watch your neighbors.
In this bill, and this bill passed, before this bill passed, you could not hold somebody for more than 48 hours without charging them with a crime, which is still fucked in the head to me. But after this bill passed, it was 7 days. So you could be sitting in a cell for 7 days without being charged with a crime, awaiting this punishment.
The earth was created in the same time.
Yes.
So
by God.
This man is Orrin Hatch.
This man is Orrin Hatch.
Orrin Hatch, our very own traitor in our midst. Okay, so go ahead.
Well, I think that the thing is, the saddest thing about it is that he does have a massive constituency, and he does represent a massive portion of people in Utah. I mean, his twisted beliefs they identify with a massive portion do with him. That's why he doesn't have to try to get reelected. That's why he's been a senator for 34 years. God. I mean, so that's reelection. Do the math. It's he's been reelected a shitload of times, to put it bluntly.
Well, it's kind of crazy how, like, in as communist as Mormons, were allegedly set out to be, like, they vote Republican in big numbers. You know what I mean? Like,
yes. Well, it's funny to me that we talked about this, that Mormons don't identify with that rebellious or that their origins of rebellion, of